I regard Deepcool as one of the most underrated PC tech companies on the planet. They make excellent cases, air coolers, and AIOs, and now made even better with RGB integration. I've already reviewed the regular Captain 240EX in a separate video. You can find it via the link right here. The good news is the Captain 240EX RGB doesn't deviate from the regular Captain's design. So let's discuss features. You'll still find the uniform CPU block to be identical, good stuff. It can be rotated any which way thanks to the absence of one-way branding as well, so no upside down text, something I've always liked about the Captains. The tube length, however, is a bit shorter than normal. This is how it is with all Captains, by the way. You may be forced to either mount it up top or in front of your case depending on its dimensions. TF120s cover the 240mm radiator in all black, which is nice. They do an excellent job at dissipating heat, but they are quite loud past roughly 50%, so tweak your fan curve accordingly. Deepcool's opted for an aluminum fin array for their Captain 240EXs, and the RGB model is no different. It's actually a good choice. Many will swear by copper, but aluminum will release the heat quicker, as copper tends to conduct and carry heat longer. It wants to hold onto that heat and not release it as quickly. You will find a copper base under the CPU block though, which is good. In a nutshell, you want something to conduct the heat quickly away from the CPU, hence the copper here, and you want something to release the heat quickly from the radiator, hence the aluminum. But to be frank, swapping either side with the alternative won't change much. This config here isn't a concern from a thermodynamic standpoint. Now let's dive into the key differences between the regular Captains and the RGB Captains. The first of these is perhaps the most obvious, the fact that you can change the color inside the CPU block, so rather than just the blase white or the red that you get with the regular Captains, you get to choose the color yourself here. Now there is a catch to this, we'll talk about it later, but the fact is you can practically change this color to whatever you want, and that's a good thing for those who are looking for customization and just RGB in general. Colors are fairly accurate and modes are easy to distinguish, and here's a bonus. Deepcool also includes an RGB LED strip to sync up with the water block. Pretty cool if you ask me, so now you get case lighting and CPU cooling in the same box. Good guy, DC. The catch that I mentioned earlier though is that if you want to change the color of the strip and the CPU block, they don't act separately, so if you change the color of one, the color of the other will also change. You have to use the wired remote. The problem with that though is that if you want to use the wired remote, you have to have access to it, obviously, and if you put your cables in your case, you have to open up your case to change the colors. So it kind of sucks. There are a few ways around this. You can run an included adapter into an RGB header on your motherboard, Asus Aura for example, but not every board boasts this feature. Cheap boards, forget it. ITX configs are sure to be left out unless you're willing to spend hundreds of dollars. A wireless system would have made this the perfect Captain upgrade, but the cable in my opinion is extremely restrictive, the Achilles heel of this entire unit. Unless you're content on one color period, changing modes will be a bit of a hassle. Now I suppose the counter argument to this would be, well, if you already have a color scheme in mind, why would you want to change it midway through your PC's life, right? That's the point of RGB. If you want a red color scheme, you just set it to red and that's it. That's all you need to do. So you don't need to change it over and over. Or you could just set it to the rainbow effect and let it do its crazy thing. But my counter argument to that counter argument would be, well, how do you know what color that strip's going to be set to out of the box? You don't know if it's set to blue, green, red, purple, yellow. You have no idea. So you have to actually plug that strip into the whole system here and then change that color before you even build it inside your case, or just kind of work with it as you're building. But it's still a pain. You know, having a remote is simple. I don't think it would have cost them much more to do that, you know, but that's just what they went with. So keep that in mind. Changing colors is a bit of a pain with the new system. Again, though, I don't think that for most of you it's going to be that big a deal if you have a color scheme already in mind. But other than that quirk, which I wouldn't call anything other than a quirk or a cost-saving measure, everything else with this kit is satisfactory. It cools about as well as the previous generation, despite claims for 10% better heat dissipation over the block and stronger pump, but that's beside the point. You'll still hit excellent clock speeds on unlocked CPUs and keep core temps nice and cool. Remember, you won't reduce the heat coming from the CPU with this AIO, but you will better mitigate it. That's the point of AIOs in general. The 240EX was already a great one, as was the 120 counterpart. If you can find them for good prices, I still recommend that you buy them. They're excellent AIOs for the price. But the 240EX RGB and the 120mm counterpart add the extra customization that many were asking for, especially with the RGB frenzy going absolutely crazy nowadays. It's an improvement that won't break the bank. You even get added benefits like an RGB LED strip and a fan hub that I didn't mention earlier. So Deepcool's throwing in things that they don't have to throw in to make this a better building experience, a better user experience for all of you. That's why I like Deepcool so much. Bang for the buck, this is the company for you. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. For the opposite, click subscribe button if you haven't already. I will catch you in the next video. As always, link links to the products showcased here down in the video description. They're tied to my Amazon link, so I get a small kickback if you do purchase something via the link. I do appreciate it. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.